All right, welcome to the final video, video 9 for Unit 4 for AP Environmental Science. This video is all about El Nino and La Nina. Now, before we get into that, we need to talk about a couple of things that are important to understand what happens in an El Nino. So a gyre is the large-scale water circulation that moves clockwise in the northern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the southern. Remember, this is what occurs because of the Coriolis effect. A lot of this is also due in part to the continents and the way the geography works. So you have gyres in both the North Pacific and the North Atlantic, along with the south of both of those oceans. Upwelling is another very key part of El Nino and La Nina. Remember, or well, maybe not remember, but upwelling is just the upward movement of ocean water. Typically, this is where water is mixed, which brings the cool and nutrient-rich water from the bottom of the ocean up. This allows for different species to survive because there are more nutrients coming up, and because certain species can do better in a colder temperature, so they're able to get closer to the shore. Typically, we see phytoplankton, zooplankton, fish, and fish-eating seabirds. All of these are a part of that same that food chain. Now, this shows you just an example of temperatures based on where you are, and you notice that as you get closer to the coasts, you're going to see higher temperatures in the ocean. So, there's two types of upwelling that can occur. You have far from shore, where surface currents will move away, and then near western coasts of certain continents, where winds that blow along the coast push the surface water away, which allows water to be drawn up. So this is going to be the first example right here. This is just north of San Francisco to give you an idea. But basically, we get these winds that are moving along the coast, moving the warm water away, allowing the cold water to upwell in, bringing in nutrients, allowing for phytoplankton and zooplankton to thrive. Another example showing you as the wind blows parallel to the coast, the warm surface layer is blown away, allowing for that cool water to upwell from below. Now, if we're far away from a coast, we see upwelling out in the middle of the ocean. For instance, at the equator, this is equatorial upwelling, where the northern and southern trade winds moving in the same direction are going to push warm surface water away, which allows that cool water from below. So you don't just need to be at a coast to see upwelling occur. Now, what happens during an El Nino? So every few years in the Pacific Ocean, the normal upwellings that occur are changed because of different weather patterns. And so this is a big part of this is due to the fact that the prevailing tropical trade winds, which usually move from east to west, will weaken or even reverse in direction, so that western Pacific warmer waters actually move toward South America. This suppresses the normal upwelling of cold nutrient-rich water, so you see less nutrients in the water. So this is just an example to show you in a normal year, equatorial winds gather warm water and they move toward the west here, and you get this upwelling that occurs, the cold water along the South American coast, then allows this normal gyre to exist. During an El Nino year, we typically see the easterly winds that are weakened. Remember, easterly means east to west, and the warm water actually moves eastward. When the warm water moves towards the east, it stops a lot of that upwelling from occurring because the air or the water near the surface is too warm. So some of the possible effects you can see are decreases in nutrients, which can reduce the primary productivity, typically a decline in populations of fish. It can also alter the weather. At least 2/3 of the globe actually can be affected by this, but especially in lands that are along the Pacific and Indian Oceans. So typically you get a more wet year because the water is warmer in the ocean. And I always remember growing up in Las Vegas, an El Nino year meant we got a lot more rain. So just to show you, during an El Nino, the El Nino typically is going to show higher rainfalls in areas that are affected that would have normally had upwelling occurring, which would have kept the ocean air cooler. You also see warmer periods because there's more warm water moving towards those areas. This occurs on both sides. And then we have drought areas because we are pushing away the warm water and allowing colder water to be in its place. Now, a La Nina is a little bit different. La Nina is the other way, right? So this can cool some of the coastal surface waters and bring back the upwellings. So during an El Nino, we see the easterly winds bringing the warm water towards the United States. When a La Nina occurs, it's going to be a westerly wind moving away from the United States. Now, during a La Nina, you're usually going to see more hurricanes in the Atlantic, colder winters in Canada and the Northeast United States. There are also going to be warmer and drier winters in the southeastern and southwestern United States, typically causing more wildfires. The winters in the Pacific Northwest will be a little bit wetter because if you remember from the El Nino year, those are areas that are usually warmer. So during a La Nina, you're going to have the opposite. Torrential rains in Southeast Asia because that warm water is moving towards Southeast Asia now. And there are usually lower wheat yields in Argentina because there's less water for the agricultural industries. That is the end of the final video and the end of all of Unit 4 notes. Hopefully this helps. Remember to ask questions if you have them, and rewatch videos if you need more clarification, or just come see me and ask me any questions you have.